Am I the asshole for kicking out my boyfriend and his daughter after she used my photos for her scrapbook? I started seeing a guy roughly a year and a half ago. He has a 9-yo, almost 10, daughter named Chrissy. I have an 11-yo son as well. We met each other's kids 3 months back and last month they started having weekend visits here. It's been a super hard adjustment for me especially. The kids get along for the most part but I'm just having a really hard time. My son has always been a fairly good kid and hardly ever given me issues. He never drew on walls or broke anything of importance or talked back. Aside from occasionally, obviously, no kid is perfect, and he was always super quick to ask permission to touch my stuff. I personally think I lucked out and I knew that not all kids were as well behaved as my child but I wasn't ready, I don't think. I'm just overwhelmed. So, since she has been doing weekend visits here, she stays in my guest room. She has destroyed a lot. Rips holes in the mattress and then says they were already there. They weren't. Draws on the walls and windowsill with makeup and marker. She even takes my new feminine pads to her room and will cut them up. She has put a hole in my wall and said it was already there. I can buy a brand new thing of shampoo and conditioner and it's 100% gone and in the trash by the end of her shower, which lasts 45 minutes every single time. She stomps her feet and slams doors when we have to speak to her and knocks things off the walls. She is generally a good kid but she is so fucking destructive. What really set me off was her coming here this weekend with her dad. My son was at his father's, and I was called in to the office to do a signing which would only take roughly an hour max. So I left them here without me. Well, when I got back she was sitting at the kitchen table with all my photo albums laying in front of her, cutting out the faces and everything else on these photos and gluing them to her scrapbook. Photos that I cannot get back, as they were printed out years ago when I was in foster care and those were the only copies I had. Photos of my dead friend as well. I went to my BF, who was on the phone outdoors and told him they needed to leave, explained the situation and told him I was fucking done. Those photos, as stupid as it may be, were a huge part of my childhood and now they are destroyed. I told him I was done speaking to him about his daughter destroying my shit and it was time to go. He thinks I'm an asshole for throwing a year and a half down the drain over some pictures. Am I? Not the asshole that shit would piss me off too. He sounds like a bad father. Curious what his responses have been to her destroying your stuff in the past. If he doesn't respect your property he doesn't respect you. Not the asshole. It wasn't over pictures, is he stupid? It's about the disrespect he's been allowing to happen and that was the last straw for you. Honestly, good kids don't do that stuff. If any of my stepkids done those things I'd have done the same as you. It's just plain rude. Edit to say. I've read this 3 times and it's annoyed me more and more on your behalf. Not the asshole. That sounds heartrending. After all the previous incidents, why wasn't he supervising her? He's at fault as much as she is. Am I the asshole for being vague about my job and embarrassing a guy the first just met? BG. I, 20s F, am a doctor. I love my job, and enjoy talking about it to some extent. But very often people will go on and on about it. What is the most horrible thing you have seen? Can you look at my rash? Why were the doctors assholes to my grandmother when she was admitted for? It goes on. So usually when I meet people I don't expect to have a long relationship with I am deliberately vague about what I do. DH is also a doctor, and he has a similar approach. So yesterday I was at a party at a friend's house and was talking with a guy the first had never met. I will add that he was giving me a bad vibe, and I wasn't enjoying the conversation. He asked what I do for a living, and I told him both me and my DH work in the hospital. He joked and asked if we had a cliché doctor and nurse relationship. This rubbed me the wrong way, and I replied, "What made you think my husband is a nurse?" In an overly friendly, sweet tone. He started mumbling confused. And a few of the surrounding people laughed. He walked away angrily. Today he sent me a message calling me a BH for embarrassing him. Ate the asshole, or the BH? I was deliberately vague, and I could have just told him we are both doctors. But I hate the gender stereotype, and he was giving me a bad vibe. Update. Apparently he was trying to get with this other woman. But she heard the story and accused him of being sexist, if the shoe fits, and therefore he struck out. Probably why he decided to call me a BH. Not the asshole. Great response. He was embarrassed but he did it to himself. And what in earth he was thinking messaging you and calling you names. Woman facepalming. Today he sent me a message calling me a BH for embarrassing him. Which one of your friends shared your contact details with him? Not the asshole, but something is off here. Not the asshole, he deserved to have his assumption thrown back in his face. Not the asshole. Have to say, if someone told me they worked in the hospital, I'd probably assume management or admin roles. But both his response at the time and the fact he needed to find you and send a follow-up message tell you who he is. Hope you blocked him without replying. Not the asshole. Quick comments like that give me hope for society. Good job. Not the asshole, I love your response. Am I the asshole for asking my daughter-in-law to seek help? My 56F, youngest son, 30M, recently married his wife, 29F. We live in different states and usually only see each other for holidays, etc. Our son's elder brother, 33M, was recently diagnosed with autism. While our younger son and now wife, Dill, were still dating, he brought her home to us so we could meet her. She's always been a little off. She's shy and awkward and prefers doing stuff on a computer to being outdoors. My husband and I are very outdoorsy and live an active life, so I guess we clashed a bit there. She's always been nice, and in the beginning of their relationship she participated in a lot of our activities even if she wasn't great at them. She comforted our elder son after his diagnosis, which was a hard blow for all of us. She said she also felt awkward and weird at times and that it was okay to be different. I suspected maybe she meant this as a way of telling us she was on the spectrum too. About 2 years ago they had their first kid. They had some issues conceiving and lost a baby before having their daughter. She's a great kid and we love her so much. Ever since the daughter was born, my daughter-in-law has become even more awkward around us. We invited them over to celebrate the 4th of July. Dill was tired and didn't participate in any outdoors activities but instead insisted on working on the computer while our son was the one playing with his daughter outdoors. I asked her what she was doing in front of the screen all the time and she just told me she was catching up on work. This just seemed off to me because why wouldn't she want to play with her husband and kid outside? My husband and I spoke privately about our worries that she's not participating in her daughter's childhood at all and leaving it all to her husband. We both agreed that we should talk to her about it. After dinner, yes, there were drinks involved. I went away to do the dishes and I heard raised voices. When I came back to the table, Dill was crying as my husband was telling her off quite sharply. He said some things that might have been a bit harsh but nothing untrue. She stormed off crying instead of discussing the issue further. I followed her to try and talk down the situation and told her we were just worried about her, them as a couple, their daughter. This is when I told her I think she should seek help, counseling for autism, as I figured that was why she was struggling with motherhood. She was extremely offended and told me she was not autistic but suffering from PPD. They packed their bags and left in a hurry. Later we saw that she had unfriended both my husband and me on Facebook and blocked us from messaging her. They haven't spoken to us since. Our son is apparently furious according to his brother. We can't reach out to explain our side of things now that we're blocked. Both of us meant well and it came from a place of worry for our grandchild. Am I the asshole? You are the asshole. Majorly. Someone doesn't like doing the things you do and prefers to stay indoors? Oh no, someone has to catch up on work while they're on vacation? They must be on the spectrum. I hope your Dill and son go and see with you both. You are the asshole. You've judged her for years and she's taken part in activities you know she dislikes in an effort to bond with you. Which was nice of her considering what bad hosts you've been over the years. Instead of minding your own business and letting this adult couple divide the childcare how they wish, you automatically jump to conclusions and judge her as failing as a mother and needing therapy for a non-existent issue. Your husband compounds the issue by telling her off. How are you surprised that this is the outcome? Good luck never seeing your grandkid again. Am I the asshole for asking my wife to accommodate my autistic friend's needs? My 34 male, good friend, 27 male, is on the spectrum. I don't know if how I'm speaking about this will come across as offensive, but he's on the less severe side of things. He's verbal and can read social cues decently well. The only tells are his stims. He rocks almost constantly if he's sitting still, a few verbal stims, etc., and his aversion of a few sensory-related things. It's not something he shares with a lot of people. He got a diagnosis later in life since his parents just thought he was a weird kid while he was growing up. Him confiding in me about this didn't change anything between us, but some of the stories he has shared broke my heart a little and have made me feel more protective of him. Due to the AC going out in his apartment and not being able to be fixed for a few days, he came to stay with my wife and I. He can't sleep unless it's on silk sheets, so I ran out and bought some the day he asked to sleep over. I wanted him to be as comfortable as possible. Sensory issues aren't simple requests, they're genuine needs. My wife was already a little annoyed by that and pointed out I hadn't done that for any of our other guests. Then halfway through his second day with us, he pulled me aside and asked me to fix whatever smell was going on in the house, that it was hurting his head and really bothering him. After some investigation on our part, we figured out it was the perfume my wife was wearing. I politely asked my wife if she would go get changed, shower so that my friend could enjoy dinner with us. She not only refused, but she tried kicking my friend out for being high maintenance. I put an end to that quickly. I realize she's not clued in on his needs, but he is a guest in our home all the same. His diagnosis is his to share, and his alone. I have refused to budge on any of the issues. According to an email he got, the AC in the building should be back up and running again tomorrow. My wife booked a hotel for the night and is insisting that one of them, either herself or my friend, go and stay there for the night. My friend is clearly distraught over this and I just can't send him off on his own when he's clearly upset after all that's happened. Am I the asshole? ETA. I bought the sheets instead of asking him to bring his from home because I wanted them for future use. This would allow any future guests to decide between the normal sheets and the silk ones. We never know who around us has sensory issues, or who might just want some nice sheets to sleep on for the night while they were guests in our home. I don't need to know the medical or diagnostic information of my guests in order to accommodate their needs. Edit 2. I get the picture and accept my judgment, guys. Can we please stop the bad autistic person stories going on in the top comment thread, though? He's entitled not to share. However, he's not entitled to be shielded from the consequences of not sharing. If she's not aware of the situation, how can she be at fault for not accommodating it? You are the asshole. The correct answer here is to tell the friend, look, either you gotta tell her what's going, or we have to respect her wishes. You are the asshole. He is a full-grown adult with his own apartment. If he needs silk sheets, he can remember to bring them. If he is having a reaction to your wife's perfume, he can politely explain and ask that she either not wear it or excuse him for avoiding her in her own home. His needs are real, but they are not an excuse to impose on other unduly. At this point, he is responsible for managing his own needs.